basketball took down Michigan in their first true road game of the season, 78-75, in a big run down the stretch from the Hoosiers really propelled them to victory tonight. I'm Drew Rosenberg. I'm here in Ann Arbor. I'm in the back row of the Chrysler Center. Kyler Staley back in Indiana. Kyler, I guess, what did you see tonight from the Hoosiers down that stretch?
I mean, I'll tell you what, it was just overall in the game. We want to start with that. It was an ugly game, right? An ugly Big Ten game as we've kind of come to expect in this conference and everything. But excuse me. But Indiana found ways to get it done. Tonight, they started the game off in the first half, 10 turnovers, really, really ugly. They were on track to having 20 plus turnovers. You'd imagine just the way that they were playing, and just it was just carelessness with the ball, lazy passes, just certain things. But you also look at the fact that the defense was holding up, and they were only down, what was it, 2 points at halftime, something like that.
Yeah.
So you look at that, you look from a defensive standpoint, and they were making shots as well as being competitive. And then you look in the second half, there was adjustments made. Good job by Mike Woodson and the coaching staff to set up successful plays and successful stints in the game, to where the lazy passes and the things like that with the ball, being careless with the ball, was kind of a non-factor. I think they ended up only with 3 turnovers in the second half, which was big, and the guards really stepped up there. And then obviously Indiana, rode with their rock, Buddy Ball down the stretch. Khalil, Malik all touched the ball, in that final 3 minutes, which rightfully so they needed to do. But you just look at it, it was a well-coached game by Mike Woodson, especially those final 3 minutes, when Indiana's up 3. And then you look at the factor of they needed a foul, down the stretch with 30 seconds left, somewhere like that. I think they started fouling maybe with less than 10 seconds on the clock. So, just great coaching on that end and everything. But, it's an ugly road win, but it's a win. Indiana starts the season off 2-0 in the Big Ten, and you'll take that every single time.
Yeah, it would seem the bench was really big today for the Hoosiers. It's been an area of concern for the most part. Every single bench player made at least 2 shots off. But CJ Gunn really led the way, hit 2 threes, 8 points, but 4 steals off the bench for him. What do you see from him tonight?
Yeah, CJ Gunn, it was a breakout game for him. I would say, obviously there were some head scratching moments and everything, but that just comes with being a young player. You're going to make highlight plays, but at the same time, there's going to be times where you get too excited and too antsy. If you're a young guy, where you're going to do something boneheaded. But start on the defensive end by CJ Gunn. I think he had 3+ steals, something around that line. So he was really active on the defensive end, and he was, competing on that end, and he was using his length and his athleticism to make plays on that end. Was really locked in. And then his offense came with that. He had 2 big threes in the game, and made a couple of good free throws down the stretch as well. So Mike Woodson rode with him down the stretch, and rightfully so. He was arguably the best bench player from Indiana tonight. And that's just saying a lot, because the whole entire bench unit that came in, they really produced. And Mike Woodson only stuck with 9 players total. And the bench guys came in, and all of them, were key factors, down the stretch and everything. They all completed on the boards. They all defended, and they all made some shots, like you mentioned. So, but CJ Gunn, big performance by him. You hope that this is going to build some momentum moving forward with him. He's going to be a really key factor for this Indiana team down the stretch. Once you get deep into the Big Ten season, you get into next year, you get around, tournament play. They're going to really need CJ Gunn, and hopefully that builds the confidence and everything. But if he can just continue to bring that energy and that spark and play with confidence, like he did tonight, that's going to be a big advantage for Indiana moving forward.
Yeah, you talked about the bigs too. The bigs, Khalil Ware in the first half really kept Indiana alive when the offense was really struggling. And then the second half, at times the offense got stagnant, and Malik Renew really found a rhythm. He had a slow start, 4 turnovers, but really just working out of that right block for him as a lefty player. He was really comfortable against the Michigan bigs tonight. What do you see from the bigs tonight?
Yeah, I feel like it's an ongoing trend. The Indiana front court, especially the starting unit of Malik and Khalil, the new version of this Buddy Ball tandem, they are the rock of this Indiana team, and they're going to go as they go. And, if Indiana needs a bucket, you're going to go at both of those guys. They really trade off. They're a very unselfish duo. If one's hot, the other one, will recognize that and just let the other guy cook. So those guys were big, especially on the defensive end down the stretch as well. Khalil had that big block on that full court pass, to seal up the game. But Indiana's going to Malik Renew. And I think the best part about Malik's game right now is he's playing with such maturity, and he's only a sophomore right now. He really is that front court leader. And he's he's took that role on, pretty well and everything. So he's using, his size, his strength to make plays around the basket. Khalil, I mean, just the things he's doing on the floor, it's kind of mind blowing right now when you look at it. Just how Oregon couldn't tap into that kind of style of what he does on the floor. He makes tough baskets. He made that really tough hook shot, right out of the timeout with like around the minute 30 mark, to really, give Indiana the momentum down the stretch. So those guys just play really, really well together. That's a versatile front court. That's going to be a really, really tough front court, moving into once we get back into Big Ten play. I think Big Ten teams are going to have to really try to figure out how to adapt to that type of front court, because that's not your typical Big Ten front court. That's not your bang it down low, even though they do that, but they're going to stretch the floor. They're going to space it out and everything. So, if you're Indiana, you're really giving those guys a lot of high fives, in the locker room, because those guys are winning you games, and they're doing it at a high level as well.
Yeah. And we talked about it. This 4-game stretch was going to be huge in determining the outcome of where Indiana ends up in tournament play and all that stuff. And they've started exactly how they need to. Took care of business against Maryland on Friday. Took care of business against Michigan tonight. They'll be back in action on Saturday at 2 p.m. in Georgia, in Atlanta, where they'll take on a good Auburn team. We'll have all the coverage of that. You and Alec will be there, boots on the ground. I will be back in Bloomington, but I will have some coverage, not as great as you guys. And as always, for all things Hoosier Illustrated, make sure you are checking out HoosierIllustrated.com. IU Athletics, we got everything. So you're subscribing on YouTube, Spotify, everywhere. We got you covered for IU Athletics. I'm Drew Rosenberg, Kyler Staley. Thanks for listening.